Hi, I'm Roseanne and welcome to my garden. Right now I'm in our cutting garden, which means that the flowers were primarily grown to be cut or harvested for use in floral arrangements. My original plan was to plant plenty of each variety so that I could feel free to cut as many flowers as I could use, but still have enough left for a vibrant display in our terraced beds with alternating colors and textures. This is my first year, and I'm reasonably pleased with how the cutting garden turned out. In this video, I'd like to share with you my plan, what worked and what didn't. I'm already excited to try a new and improved version next season. I love having fresh cut flowers in the house and wanted a variety of shapes and colors. Last January, I looked through seed catalogs, both paper and online, and decided on the following plan. The terraced area shown here is approximately 10 feet by 20 feet and faces west. The yellow flowers on the top tier are Golden Glow Rudbeckia, a perennial that have been in that location for many years. They make a great cut flower and will fit right in the new cutting garden. Other than that, I was starting with a clean slate. Not only did I want the flowers I selected to look good in a vase, I wanted them to look good in the ground, an arrangement of sorts, framed with sandstone flagstones and terraced retaining walls. By using colors on my plan that mirrored the actual flower color, I was able to visualize better. I also wanted to make sure that I had enough yellow, chartreuse, and white flowers. For these, I used Cosmos, Nicotiana, Calla lilies, and Orlea. For the blues and violets, I used Larkspur and Nigella. And for a colorful pop, I used a color mix of giant zinnia and hybrid snaps. I already had Calla lily rhizomes, but needed to buy seeds for the rest of the flowers. I ordered them early in the year and began the planting process in late February. In no time at all, it was May and time to plant the garden. Here's a picture of all my seedlings, including those for the cutting garden, vines, other annuals, and some vegetables. A week before I intend to plant them, I begin to harden them off or have them adjust to the outdoors. I move them indoors and out again to have them gently adjust to the sunlight and temperature changes. The first step was to place the seedlings according to the plan. It didn't take long to realize that I would need to be flexible and change some things around. For example, I needed more space for the zinnias and less for the white cosmos, so I switched them around. I made a few other changes to make sure the terraced beds were full of flowers. I began planting the top tier and started with the white cosmos. This variety is so lovely with its bright white petals and lacy foliage that I wished I had more. It is aptly named Afternoon White. I started these from seed this year, and while they were okay, they never became very robust. Next season, I'll try sowing the seeds directly into warm soil, which normally means warmer than 55 degrees Fahrenheit or 13 degrees Celsius. And I'll space them so that the plants are 6 to 9 inches apart, a bit more dense than I planted them this year. To the south of the Rudbeckia, also on the top tier, I planted my giant zinnia mix. I started these seeds indoors to get a head start on blooming, but I understand they also do quite well directly sown into warm soil. These zinnia roots don't like to be disturbed, so I used biodegradable cow pots and planted the entire pot into the soil. They were a total success and definitely add the pop I was looking for. They've bloomed almost all summer long and attract all kinds of pollinators. Moving to the second tier are the Larkspur. The instructions recommended direct sowing these in cool ground. I started these in milk cartons in late spring when there was still snow on the ground. If you haven't seen my video on winter sowing, it will explain what I did. The plants did great. The stakes of lavender flowers are very sweet, and the shape is a nice contrast to the other plants. In a vase or in the ground. Unfortunately, I wish I had more to plant because I had extra space in the bed. To fill that space, I used pink zinnias that I had planned for elsewhere in the garden. The blooms are magnificent, and although I had been expecting exclusively pink blooms, they opened in multiple colors. Next year, I'll start twice as many plants to fill up the entire tier with larkspur. Continuing on the middle tier, the plan called for hybrid snapdragons in a color mix. The seeds were started indoors, as was recommended on the seed packet instructions. The seedlings germinated fine, but they needed to be supported to grow upright. About 2/3 of the bed was planted with the snapdragon seedlings, and the other third with Orlea seeds. The Orlea was surprisingly easy to grow with beautiful results, a definite repeat for next year. I love their striking white umbel-shaped heads, and they're perfect as a lacy filler in arrangements. The snapdragons were also quite lovely and vibrant, and the colors were striking. Unfortunately, I found them to be quite unruly in the flower bed. They really wanted to topple over. Next year, because I like snapdragons as a cut flower, I'm going to buy a flat of a shorter stem variety, which normally are available at nurseries. I hope to get better results, as well as free up more space under the grow lights. Next are the calla lilies. Callas are stunning in the ground, stunning in a vase, very reliable, and a perfect way to use extra rhizomes that I have. They are a must for my cutting garden. If you're interested in growing callas, do check out my other videos on them. I planted the bottom tier of the cutting garden last, beginning with a beautiful light shade of graceful yellow cosmos. I grew these from seed indoors, as was recommended. Everything about them was positive. They germinated well, transplanted well, and flowered generously all summer long. They're shorter than many cosmos and have sturdy 2-foot stems. I can't wait to grow these again next year. The middle area, meant for an eye-catching display of nigella, was somewhat of a disappointment. Bunnies ate about half of the plantings the first night before we put up our standard 1.5-foot tall green wire fencing. I augmented the newly thinned area with pink zinnia as I had done with the larkspur. Nigella have stunning ornate blooms with equally enticing foliage, but I found their stems a bit short. Next year I'll plant either nigella, bachelor buttons, or a combination. Lastly, in the lower corner are chartreuse-colored nicotiana, commonly referred to as flowering tobacco plant. Started as seedlings, these little plants were spaced 18 inches apart. They grow into large plants with tall stems and trumpet-like star-shaped flowers that bloom all summer long. Their shape and the color make these a great accent flower. I'll definitely grow these again and probably add them to other beds in our garden. You may have noticed the brown hoses. These are drip hoses and part of an irrigation system. It's good to water flowers from the bottom so that their blooms are not unnecessarily battered by water. In addition to making sure your plants are watered regularly, I have 2 other cutting garden pieces of advice. First, deadheading, or removing the spent flowers, is important, as you want the plant to put its energy into making more flowers, not more seeds. That is, of course, unless you want to harvest the seeds. Secondly, be sure to fertilize the plants. I used a balanced organic fertilizer early in the season. Then I tried a bloom builder fertilizer, and the plants responded very quickly with more and larger flowers. There's always a lot of trial and error with gardening, and this project is no exception. Overall, this new garden was a fun project, and I learned a lot. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.